What's going on, YouTube? My name is ginj-tcg or Chris, and I am joined by my co-host Avery for the third episode of the Battle VIPs podcast, where we will talk about the best decks from the past 2 weeks going into Worlds. And I know this is coming out on day one of Worlds. I did realize that in the past 5 minutes, but it should be coming out right before Worlds starts. So if you're watching this while Worlds is going on, or you got in the background something like that, we'll see how this meta review is holding up, at least going into the biggest tournament of the year, or the most important, not technically the biggest because you got to qualify for it, but y'all know what I mean. So yeah, anything you want to add before we jump into the overall meta review?
This is episode 3. You already know what's going on. We got some hot takes as far as the placement of decks and where we think they're gonna be, but that's what you come here for. You come here for hot takes and nonsense. So let's get straight into it.
And in the number one spot, I think this is the only non-hot take. I don't think this is actually debatable at all. I think Lugia is the most dominant deck going into Worlds. Obviously, I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, it's not the most played deck. Actually, it's not even close to the most played deck. That's fine. It sweeps in terms of winning tournaments. Lugia has considerable bulk in its own card with the busted energy acceleration engine. It's got single price Uchino, which can one-shot anything in the format if you try hard enough. You got Ogerpon, which can snipe bench damage, or Ursaluna for big Okos in the late game, hands to disrupt single price decks. It's got everything it needs except for consistent hands. But I think enough people will be bringing it to Worlds where some of them are just bound to take over with it. And I think Lugia is going to perform extremely well in the Honolulu Worlds Championship, just because of how well-rounded and how powerful the deck is overall.
100%. I feel like Lugia, like you've said in past episodes, Lugia's biggest opponent is itself. Lugia just absolutely... It just rolls. You have everything you need. You have Squawk ability on your first turn, just getting rid of your Archeops. You have Lugia. If you start off with a Lugia, Ultra Ball, and at least one Archeops, you're literally just fine. You're doing as fine.
You know what I mean?
If you have a Carmine in your hand with a Lugia in the active, you're literally just digging through your entire deck more than a Mew VMAX player. And it's just wild because it's one of those decks where it can completely just annihilate your opponent's board, or if you see it on the ladder while you're playing live, it's just one of these, all right, this game's either going to be 15 seconds because they're going to scoop as they have 5 energy in hand, or I'm going to be sitting here for 30 minutes like it's a Gardevoir match. There's no in-between. This deck hits hard, it hits fast, and you got to be watching out for it.
I think that's so well said. And I think something else that's important to note for Lugia going into Worlds is this is the first tournament where Shattered Fable is live. And based on what I've seen from a lot of tournament results and my own time playing on the ladder and playing the mess of decks I do every day for my videos, I feel like hand disruption, cards like Iono and Judge are in a really, really poor spot right now because of Fezandipity EX. Because a lot of players, you get to a point in the late game where it's just been a habit where it's oh, you've got 2 prize cards remaining, I'm going to KO your active, I'm going to Iono you to 2 and watch you figure it out, which has been a great play forever. And then Fezandipity kind of tells you oh, well, it doesn't matter because if I've drawn to 2 cards, I top deck 3, Fezandipity into 3 more, now I've got 6 cards in hand, I'm sure I can play the game, 6 cards is plenty. It just makes Iono worse. And I think when you're playing a deck like Lugia, you don't necessarily play Fezandipity. You don't need that extra draw because you have gift energy. But because less people might be using a extra supporter slot for something else that's not Iono now because it's not doing amazing, that can help Lugia keep more consistent hands. And I think when Lugia's biggest weakness is itself and its natural hands, it's got nothing in hand or it's got 15 energy in it, I think there's also scenarios in the late game where they have that last boss's orders, they have that last fish to search for boss's orders, or that legacy energy to attach to hands for the final KO. They have usually what they need, and they don't play any supporters to keep it at that point. And I think the less Iono in play, the better Lugia might do. So, and you can see it in the results. 20% of the tournaments it's in, which is all of them, it's won, which is disgusting, and the best by a absolute landslide. So,
Used to be a big Lugia hater, but now I might actually consider putting the cards together to bring this on the ladder, and I already know I'm going to start with the Minccino and nothing else.
And what's so insane about it is you can totally come back from that. You could drop down a prize or 2 with a deck like this and still completely cook your opponent. This deck is an absolute powerhouse. It has been since it came out in Silver Tempest, and I don't think it's as dominant as it was then. I don't think Lugia will ever be as dominant as it was then. At least I hope not, because that legitimately wasn't fun. Because when you played in the tournament, you either played Lugia or you asked yourself, can I beat Lugia? There was nothing else mattered. but I think it's still the best archetype, you know, a couple years later. Just in a different way, in a healthier way, but it's still insane. It's still insanely powerful.
It's a very, I want to say balanced, but Cinccino's a little bit too powerful.
I agree. It's very well balanced as in terms of like what's available for decks. It has insane one-shot potential, tank potential, snipe potential, 2 prize potential with Iron Hands on a single prize deck. I mean, it's got absolutely, it could play from the board. You could have no cards in hand and still take KOs every turn with Archeops in play. Like, it is, I think, honestly, like one of the perfect decks in that sense, where it's got kind of everything it needs kind of just mashed into one. Do I think it's balanced in terms of like healthy for creating the most diverse card game? Not necessarily, but in terms of like its own structure compared to other decks, I think this deck has absolutely everything.
Yeah, this deck feels like getting punched by Popeye after the spinach eating. Like, that's all I really know how to say.
Facts. So, yeah, I've got high hopes for Lugia. I think it'll be amazing. Would I have played it to Worlds? No, but only on principle. I stand on principle. I don't play meta decks, no matter how big the tournament is. But if you had to ask me, like, what I would expect to win Worlds, I would have Lugia in my top 3 easily. I have it, like, I don't know if I have it necessarily winning Worlds, but I have it having an outstanding performance overall. So...
I think
Lugia
top 8, at least 2 Lugia
yes.
in top 8 is reasonable.
Yes, I completely agree. Good for number 2.
Yeah, let's go on.
For number 2, surprise, following it with Gardevoir EX. Just another deck that is well balanced in the sense where it has absolutely everything. I mean, the deck's got an amazing, probably the best draw engine, I think, for any deck right now. It's got a phenomenal energy acceleration engine, the same way where it could have a single prize or take massive OCOs on anything your opponent has in the active spot. I mean, it's got answers to everything. I think the only thing with this deck is it is like the hardest meta deck to play right now in the format. And I think that's something that holds it back a little bit in tournaments, but not due to the deck's fault for any reason, but because a lot of the top players will opt to play other decks because they're significantly easier and you can have the same overall results and matchup spread. But I think Gardevoir is just as powerful. I mean, it's got some insane stats for how well it's done the past 2 weeks in tournaments, and Shrouded Fable has been live, so you know it's definitely a testament to the deck and its longevity.
100%. I mean, Kirlia is the best draw engine in the game. I don't think there's anyone that can contest that. Discard any card from your hand, draw 2. That is one of the best abilities, hands down.
Especially when you need Psychic
just at
discard. You know, it's like, so perfect for a deck like this.
Got Monkey Dory just to throw some damage off when you attach it via Gardevoir EX. You got Drifloon that can absolutely just explode. You got Screamtail, which just says, "Hey, I don't like that thing that you have there. You can get rid of that for me." Fluttermane if your opponent's. Oh yeah, it's just gone. Just sweep that off the board.
Box deck, sit behind Fluttermane 90% of the game. What
Have fun.
Do? Yeah.
Get your Lost Zone working with this.
You've either got Chorus in hand or you don't, and you won't every time. So it's, you know.
I will make sure you won't. And then even just Unfair Stamp, like it's just an annoying card to get hit with. Even if you do.
Iono spam deck, having Unfair Stamp is just so infuriating because I feel like there's so many times where like they'll Unfair Stamp or they'll Iono, put me at like 4 cards in the mid game, and then get Unfair Stamp and do that again just cause. And I'm like, why? Like, why? I already had a dead hand once off your Iono. Now I got to do it again. It's so annoying. And
you just got to figure it out. Yeah. That's Gardevoir. It's just like, you either having a phenomenal matchup against me or you're like the other 90% of decks and you're just going to be miserable the entire game. Because I'm going to take 30 minutes per turn. And if I'm not going to win, I can know within the first 3 minutes and I will scoop game 1.
That's all it's a best of 1 in 50 minutes. And if they scoop in game 1, I mean, that's where you got to play game 2 so fast to close out game 3. But overall, I think that's what makes Gardevoir so difficult to a tournament like Worlds, is because you're playing it like a best of 1. You know, you have to go in with the mindset that my first game is going to take 30 to 40 minutes and I probably won't finish a game 2. In fact, I actually don't want to finish a game 2. I want this first game to take 40 minutes because you're that confident you'll win the first match with it. And then game 2 doesn't matter. You're going to do so much per turn like you normally do. It's not going to run out. Like, you're not going to have enough time. So yeah, definitely good number 2. Good number 2 lock.
Yeah. One of the annoying things about playing against Gardevoir is there's not many things that hit for 310. Like, if you're really going to be aggressive against Gardevoir, you're going to have to find a way to one-shot Guardy. There's no other way around it.
There is a certain deck, which may or may not be in the rogue deck list, and potentially something I am super excited to talk about that can one-shot Gardevoir, and I can't wait to get to that. So we'll save that for when we're there. I think for now, deck number 3, we got Regidrago Box. Probably my least favorite deck to play against right now.
I don't even feel good when I play this on the ladder. I'm gonna keep it real. Like I don't feel good about myself. It's just
I definitely was being a little piss baby for like a couple days with all my friends like Avery when I was playing just on my own like personal time with them, because like the decks I run a lot, I don't know what it was. I could not beat Regidrago, and I don't even think it's because the matchups were that bad. I think it's a mix of like I was drawing bad hands and I was so in my own head that I just somehow fell apart playing this deck completely. And I mean, then there's a reason for it. It's amazing. It is another deck that just feels so complete with Shrouded Fable. And I think this actually might be the first deck that Shrouded Fable greatly affected. The addition of Kieran and Haxorus as well as Fezandipity is insane, and I think has made this deck the absolute best it's ever been.
100% agree. I mean, I don't find myself using Dragapult attack when I attack with Regidrago. I usually find myself doing Rolling Iron, because taking minus 80, you're effectively putting yourself at 360 HP, and that's something that is going to take a while to take care of. And it's still 200 damage is very, very decent. I mean, like, you still have Noivern EX just in case you have a pesky basic and your opponent's active.
You mean
got Kiram.
Just all of Raging Bolt.
Yep, it's just one of those decks that's like, hey, I don't like that, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Once again, I mean, I've used Kiram's attack just to weaken things up when I know that my Regidragos. Yeah, you saw me do it. You just saw me do it.
No, you did it to the 3 Toad schools when we were playing that one time, and I was like, why do I even play this game? Like, that was I crashed out that name, dude. We played in that tournament. I had a night, man. This deck completely got in my head. It was living rent-free in my head for a couple days, and I think I took enough of a break from testing decks that I was able to reset myself, and I've actually played a few matches against Regidrago since, and I've done a lot better. But I mean, this deck did me in this past week. I'd be lying if I said it didn't, and it shows. It's got the percentages and the overall win percentage of tournaments, top 4 and top 8. And just a reminder, if people don't know, these percentages come from Trainer Hill, and they are from the past 2 weeks. The dates are listed on the first slide when I went over it, and they're from all online and in-person tournaments recorded through Limitless with 50 or more players. And so that's where all these percentages coming from. And this deck has an insane play percentage as well as an insane win percentage. This might be the most played deck at Worlds. I think this is a contender for that. It's definitely going to be more played than Lugia and Gardevoir. At least maybe Lugia, definitely Gardevoir. But this honestly is going to be in the top 3 if I had to take a guess, if not number 1 most played, because it's so well-rounded, it's so strong, it's so technical. I mean, there's just so many things going for it right now. And it's one of those cards that everyone wanted to be good for years. And finally, just before I think 6-8 months before it rotates, it is in the best spot in the format. So good for Regidrago, but it's about time this card sees some light. So I don't hate it too much.
I do. I'm a D1 hater of Regidrago. I mean, Ogerpon just makes any sorry, any deck that relies on grass energy to attack, you just throw in at least 3 Ogerpon, and you're never gonna have to worry about
3 Ogerpon,
consistency.
4 energy switch, and just the double deck. And hey, you know what? I think Ogerpon is too new for me to hate its involvement in the format right now. I think it gives light to such a variety of decks that I don't hate it, because it's not like Genesect V, where it was only good in one deck. You couldn't pair Genesect V in every deck. Honestly, you can pair Ogerpon in enough different decks that I think it's good. Obviously, there's going to be meta decks that go with it, like Raging Bolt, like Regidrago, but it also opens up the door for Toad School. Tomorrow's video, sneak peek, actually, this will be coming out at the same time, so it literally doesn't matter, is a Regigigas V-Star deck with 2 Ogerpons for the same draw engine, and it's just a Regigigas V-Star deck, that's it. And it was amazing. I mean, like, it opens up the door for so many rogue decks as well. So I think because of that, I don't hate Ogerpon.
Oh yeah, and when Hydrapple EX comes out, I'm running that. That deck is just going to be so awesome. Ogerpon's going to be an amazing engine. Oh my god.
I think with that deck, I don't know, actually you probably wouldn't know this unless I told you before, which I probably did. So when I first learned how to play the game during COVID, like legitimately, like Aaron and I sat down and learned how to play together with like Rich and our friend Jack. I played, you remember the coin flip Maractus? however many heads you have, you flip 60 damage per heads. That was the first card I used in my deck. It revolved around that. And so I always loved grass Pokemon, like the grass Pokemon cards. I've always loved them so much. And then my first deck ever was Shadow Red or Calyrex. As far as I'm concerned, Hydrapple is the combination of those two. And I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this card. Like this. As far as my card game life goes, Hydrapple EX is what I've been looking forward to the most.
And we're going to be getting that very, very soon.
So excited. Sadly, it's after Baltimore, though. So I'll have to go to another regionals this season to show off Hydrapple because I am going to be a big Hydrapple guy when it comes out.
So ready?
Yeah.
Shall we go on to number 4?
Yep. And this one, not much needs to be said. The matches take long enough. There's no need to dive into what this deck does. You just sit behind Black Stall, you wait for your opponent to deck out. It's in a great spot. People refuse to tech for it. It will continue to do amazing. There's the technology to deal with the Snorlax Stall. That being said, people don't want to tech for it, so it'll always be a deck that people just get mad at. Like, I feel like when you go on Poke Twitter, everyone hates Stall, everyone hates Iron Thorns. There is so many cards that can deal with those decks so easily. People just refuse to donate 2 cards in their deck. They refuse to tech for them. So you know what? They're going to keep doing amazing, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. And I think both decks deserve a pat on the back for that. I love it.
No, man, I don't got space for canceling Cologne. What are you talking about?
Oh, I have to play an extra switch or an extra turn. Oh my god, I have to play like Minior or Sandshrew. Like there's so many. Even Spiritomb destroys Stall. Spiritomb is an insane way to deal with Stall, and you shut down Luminions and other decks. You shut down Rotoms and other decks. I mean, Spiritomb is such a good way to passively deal with Stall, and people refuse to
throw
do it.
one. Just throw one.
So,
even if you just want to throw Fluttermane in the active, why not?
Well, that's a little different, because then Fluttermane, they can still work around, they can still use Rotom. Like, I think, honestly, the best tech to deal with Snorlax Stall, and I probably should have put it in the top tech cards, is Spiritomb. I think Spiritomb is insane. There are so many Luminions and Rotoms in the format right now, and Spiritomb just shuts down all of them. And the other thing that Spiritomb shuts down is the Pidgeot V. So their infinite loop disappears with Spiritomb, and I think that's busted. And in case they boss up Spiritomb, its attack for 1 energy puts it back in your hand. Like, what's better than that?
You're not knocking out things with Stall.
Exactly.
You're just hoping your opponent can't deal with you. That's the one thing. If your opponent can't deal with you, you just win.
Yeah, so, I mean, Snorlax, I think something to note with Stall, in case someone watching this is like, ooh, I should play Stall. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but Stall, from what I've seen, has an insanely hard time actually winning big tournaments. It has one of the best times making top cut, making top 4, making top 8 in those massive tournaments, making top 16. But rarely does Stall actually close out an entire tournament, which is why it has one of the lowest overall win percentage from the top decks. And I think that's because when you get to that top level, like when you're fighting with someone else who's fighting for first, fighting for third, fighting for fifth, something like that, they were prepped to deal with you. And as you get higher up that ladder, up that ranking, people are going to know how to deal with Stall much more. They're going to know exactly what they need to do to beat Stall. And I think that's something that hurts Stall. And I don't think that takes away credit from it. It just proves what I said, that those people were prepared to deal with Stall, and other people on Poke Twitter that complain about Stall and complain about Iron Thorns all day just refuse to deal with it. They see it, they insta-scoop, and then they get mad when they lose, but they also refuse to try. So I think that's just something to know with Stall.
Yeah. One of the best things you can do against Stall is, number 1, don't overbench. Number 2, only make sure the Pokemon that are on your field are ready to attack or can attack within 2 turns.
And also,
because then you're going to be in a good spot.
Play slow. Take your time. I mean, you have to play with some pace to keep the pressure up, but you don't have to thin. You don't have to do any full send play. Like, if you're like, ooh, this would be a big full send, don't do it. Just, you're playing Stall. If you're like, ooh, I can do this, and I'll use a good bit of resources, but I'm gonna really hurt their board state and take out that Rotom V, or take out the whatever Pokemon, 2 Snorlaxes if you got a bench side Pokemon like Greninja or something like that. You know what I mean? Yes, do that. Also, put the pressure. Apply some good pressure. Don't overextend. Don't force it. Especially if there's a chance, ooh, this would be awesome if I can Pokestop into this, but if I whiff and get rid of this, I'm gonna lose. Don't. Just wait. It's not worth it. but that's generally good mindsets when playing against stall from what I've seen as a former stall player too. I don't like opponents that think like that.
Yep, and one thing I will tell you guys is that if you're playing against a stall player, there's like a 50% chance that they're doing something else totally in the background. They're just waiting for your turn to pop up.
So they can, on their other monitor.
Yep, they can just alt-tab back in. Hold on, guys, 1 second. Alt-tab back in, play Avery, just discard your rare candy. Pass. All right, guys, he's locked in again. Like, you're literally, like, he's clicking heads and clicking your board. Like, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yep. Well said. So I got stalled in the 4th spot. I don't think it'll win Worlds. I wouldn't be shocked if someone got, like, top 8 with stall. I don't think more than one person. I mean, famous last words. Honestly, I'd love to see, like, 5 people make top 8 with stall. That I think would send the world into just an absolute rage, and I would laugh. I think it would be so funny to see, but I don't think that'll happen. I think at best you could hope for 1 stall in top 8, and I do expect to see a few people running stall. I think it's in an awesome spot right now. I think people are worried about teching for so many other things. Not many people are going to tech for stall, and I think it'll be kind of one of those like decks that might take people by surprise, and I love that. I do love that a lot.
I'm honestly hoping for that to happen, because like stall is one of those things that's like you're going in like there's gonna be so little people playing it. Like, what's even the point of like getting rid of a card spot and this and that? And like you're arguing with yourself. You're gonna get cooked.
Yeah. So that'll wrap it up for stall. In the number 5 spot, I have here it is, Iron Thorns EX. I mean, this deck is tied for 2nd on most overall wins in the Shrouded Fable format, and people hate it. I mean, people are in such a rage about how this is awful for the format and it's not good. And like, oh, I clicked by accident. My bad. It's like it's not good. It's a trash deck. It's brainless. Cope. Play a Canceling Cologne if you think it's brainless, and people will play less stalls. Play 2 Canceling Cologne if you want to guarantee the win, and people will play less stall. But as long as people keep complaining about how stalls or Iron Thorns is awful and keep not teching for it, guess what people are going to play? Iron Thorns. I mean, I love playing this deck in like actual like tournaments or in my free time because I think it's amazing. And I think it's one of those where it's like, yeah, it's good because no one wants to deal with it, and as long as that you can, the cards have existed for years that can, but until people do, it's gonna keep being amazing. So
I really don't have much else to say about that. That was like perfectly well put. Iron Thorns is like the same stall situation. Do I really want to get rid of like my 4th Iono to get rid of Iron Thorns? And it's like, dude, if your deck relies on your abilities to work, I'm sorry, but you're just gonna get cooked. It's just one of those things.
Too, like, I feel like some people, because I've seen a couple posts, oh well, you could tech Mimic You to deal with Iron Thorns. You can. Iron Thorns plays Lost City and 2 Canceling Colognes, and I hate to break it to y'all are not putting 3 Mimic You. If Gardevoir is not putting 3 Mimic You in their deck, you're not putting 3 Mimic You in their deck, and there's no other way to say it. It's just not happening. Like, we play 2 Canceling Colognes. There's no reason other decks can't play 2 Canceling Colognes as well if they really want to deal with this matchup. I think it's in a good spot. Honestly, I am hoping I see an Iron Thorns in top 8. I really, really want this deck to win Worlds. I mean, if this deck wins Worlds, oh my god, I'd be the happiest guy in existence.
I want to see 4 Crushing Hammers in a row. I want to see him. Yes. I want to see bro put down, grab 4 cards from his hand, throw them face up, and say, "Deal with it." And they're all Crushing Hammers, and they all hit heads. That's going to be hilarious.
Mm-hmm. And I was doing some thinking, too, about this deck, because I know in my last stream, I was playing this deck for a bit, actually, and I was having a ton of fun playing it with a bunch of my viewers, and we were having a really good talk about the optimal way to build Iron Thorns. And we were talking about Prime Catcher, and I was actually playing it on stream with Prime Catcher for the first time, and I really did like it, because the mentality that Tricky Jim talked about was, if you play Legacy Energy, you're trying to force using 4 Iron Thorns in one game, which makes sense. Force a 7 prize card game with an annoying card. But Tricky Jim was saying something like, which makes perfect sense. Look, if your opponent can deal with 3 Iron Thorns, they can pretty much guarantee KO a 4th. So why would you play that over Prime Catcher? And I think after a long time thinking about it and playing both lists for a little bit, I think the reason I still prefer Legacy Energy is decks like Regidrago. Yes, it can deal with 3 Iron Thorns, but that's a good matchup for Iron Thorns, and I think part of that is because they can deal with 3, but when you keep piling more Thorns, when you just put a 4 Thorns, just because they can deal with it doesn't make it easy. And you having access to using a 4th attacker makes it so much harder to actually close out those games. So I like having 4 Boss's Orders and Legacy Energy instead of 3 Boss and Prime Catcher, or 4 Boss and Prime Catcher. Like, I think Legacy Energy is phenomenal for this deck, and I kind of stand by that card.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like Legacy Energy is just one of those aspects that's like, your opponent is more than likely going to want to work around it, but in a deck like Thorns, they're not going to be able to.
No, yeah.
They're
At
stuck.
some point, it's going to be forced in the active, and you're either going to have a boss KO around it, or because you couldn't use all the abilities that you refuse to deal, like Tech 4, to protect them, and refuse to put a canceling clone, it's just not going to happen. So, Iron Thorns in the 5, and I am loving it.
Shall we move on to the disgusting number 6?
Yeah. This list, it won a tournament, and I was going through a few Raging Bolt lists. I'm like, ooh, which list should I put up here? To like preview for people. And when I saw this, I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And I love it because you know what? If I'm gonna put this list in the 6th spot because it is amazing and it deals with Regidrago very well, and it could hang with Lugia, I'm gonna make sure that I put a fun one up there. And this won a big tournament and had all the spice.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see a Raging Bolt in the active, I just know I'm going to see at least 2 Nest Balls come out for Ogre Pawns, and it's just going to be a whole mess. Like, it's just one of those decks. It just hits the perfect numbers. It has S-tier consistency. You have Pheasantipity now, so if you knock out a Raging Bolt, they're going to draw 3 cards. One of them is going to be Asada, and another one's going to be Energy Retrieval. They have Dusknoir now, just to say, hey, you have that's a nice Bibarel you have on the bench. Get rid of it. They have Iron Bundle.
Bibarel right now. It's actually not a very popular support Pokemon. I feel like I've seen less and less Bibarel since Shrouded Fable has came out, which is surprising.
Run Bibarel.
Facts.
Show my favorite man.
Show the goat.
Show him some love. Show him some love. Iron Bundle over here, just to tell your opponent, even though you get to pick that active, I'm not liking it. I don't want to blow that one up. And if they have something if they only have one other card on the bench that it has a 4 retreat cost or something like that, you can just Iron Bundle at the beginning of the game, and then you get 3 free turns to set up, unless you have a switch
you
card.
don't even need that much time.
Oh yeah,
Max
a Raging Bolt. You just set up immediately, and then you're just meant to deal with it.
Solid deck, all around well performances. I mean, 8% overall play rates, 8% win rate almost, 12% top 4. I mean, this deck, I think, has a really good shot of making top cut at Worlds. I mean, it might not be dominated, it might not be 3 of them, but I think 1 really deserves a spot in that top 8 spot.
Perfect, and I hate it.
Yeah. It's the perfect aggro deck, I think. It does what, Chien-Pao and Miraidon, maybe not Miraidon because they have access to hands, but it's what Chien-Pao and Goldengo want to do, this just does more efficiently. And I'm really upset saying that because I've hated Chien-Pao for a long time, but I kind of miss when Chien-Pao was the best aggro deck, and it just tortured whatever's in the active, because at least it had a reasonable amount of HP for something that's going to blow up whatever it looks at. This thing has a ridiculous amount of tank potential for such I don't care what's in the active, I'm swinging for more damage than I need to KO type deck.
Yeah, I mean, 220 versus 240, it doesn't seem like a lot, but you're really messing with a lot of math right there. And
yes,
a lot of I've seen people that have done really well in tournaments use a great cape on this thing, and it's just,
or the
340 on Raging Bolt. Yep, I
don't see Hero's Cape as much. I see Bravery Charm a lot.
Bravery Charm is also something really big, because then you have what, 300, 290?
290, which is insane. You have more HP than Lugia V-Star, which is known for being pretty bulky in the format, so it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you're a tank, and you just walk through, and you just blow everything up, and your opponent has to deal with it.
Nope,
and with Dragon Pokemon still not having a weakness, there's nothing you can really do against it other than just hit that number.
Not at all. So, solid deck in the 6th spot. I think it'll do well. I hope it doesn't, but I think it will.
It'll be top 32.
Enough about Raging Bolt. No one cares about it.
I hope people don't care about it, but you already know.
Charizard Pidgeot in the number 7.
Yeah.
Solid deck. I feel like overall, it's had a very underwhelming start to Shrouded Fable, and I'm really curious to see if it's going to flip in Worlds, and the best players in the world are going to take Charizard like they have in every other regional and make it amazing again. I think there is a world where that can happen. I just think in terms of its overall percentages and how it's done since Shrouded Fable came out, I feel like I expected it to just take the world by storm again, but it hasn't. It's good, it's solid, I've got it in the 7 spot, but it's I didn't even know. Like, I compared Charizard with a few other decks, and I'm like, does this even deserve the 7 spot, or is this 8? Um, it's like that right now, and I hope. I don't know if I don't mind Charizard getting good again. So many decks I play naturally do well against Charizard, so I wouldn't be that upset. Make it good so I can play Toad Scroll, but.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the things about this deck that scares me is that there's a lot of great Zard players that haven't posted a list recently.
Yes.
And it makes me think that there is some sauce out there that people are keeping under the cover that they're waiting to show off at Worlds that makes it insane.
Arceus Charizard or something.
There's someone out there has cooked a dish that Gordon Ramsay couldn't find a spec on that is going to just sweep everything, and I'm waiting for it.
Oh,
Because 100%, top players don't share their actual lists. They share like one of these lists that, like, a Limitless player played and did really well. They're out there, they're thinking, they're up right now, sleepless, 3 nights, 3 monsters on their desk, searching every card in their bulk bin, just waiting to find what goes good with Zard.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like the whole Dusclops Dusknoir line, it's like, oh yeah, I'm hitting 210. Now I can deal with a little bit, a couple more things while also dealing damage to you. You have the potential to one-hit KO everything in the game on turn 2, but do you have the sauce to be able to consistently one-hit KO everything? And I'm hoping.
I think Charizard is a deck that can actually be that consistent. I'm very curious to see how this does. I don't think it's a bad statement to say it's been underwhelming thus far, but like you said, so many of the top Charizard players in the world have not shared their Charizard lists, and we've seen them bring Charizard to so many other tournaments, so I'm very excited to see how they do and what they do with Charizard at Worlds, because I think Worlds is going to be where we see Charizard start to make a big comeback in the meta. I think Charizard is a deck that people are going to sleep on, and I think it's going to deserve a couple of the spots in the top 8, and it's going to fight and try to push for a chip at Worlds. Because of exactly what you said. I mean, I think it's kind of like the dark horse right now, which is insane, because I feel like in so many other tournaments it's the most played deck by a landslide, but I think right now it just didn't have the start people thought it would, and maybe it's because so many of those top players knew World was coming in 2 weeks, and they did not want their deck on Limitless. They did not want to put the spice in there.
Yep, and if you take a look at the Pokemon World site, they have Zard as number 1 on their list. So I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for it, but that wraps it up for the top 7 meta decks that we have over the past 2 weeks and the start of Shattered Fable. So let's get into what we got.
The rogue decks
in no particular order. It's just listed 1 to 3. It's not actually like the best rogue deck compared to the 3rd best rogue deck. It's just 3 rogue decks we think are amazing right now. And in the 1 spot, we got Ancient Box, which I have to say, this was the thing I was talking about, like a one-shot card of REX. And if there was a deck, if I qualified for Worlds this weekend, this is what I would play. 100% without a doubt in my mind, I would be playing Ancient Box right now, because Charizard has not seen it a lot of popularity. It has been a bit underwhelming in the past, so I think there's going to be a point where it's like, I'm thinking we might even be overthinking it, and it's just underwhelming because it's not insane right now. So, whoopsies. So, I skipped a slide by accident. So, I think Ancient Box is perfect. It deals with Regidrago, deals with Gardevoir, deals with Lugia. Iono isn't played as much right now because of Festivity EX, so you can take advantage of that, because that is one of the few things that really, really annoys Ancient Box players, is a good late game Iono. So, you know what? I am loving this deck right now so much.
As much as I dislike Roaring Moon, EX, the single prizer, is annoying, but it is still one of those decks that can absolutely close out any game. Roaring Moon has an amazing first attack. You're just swinging really hard, and you're swinging like 2 prize damage for a 1 prize Pokemon.
I think you forget Roaring Moon is Roaring Moon, like what the actual Pokemon is, and you think about the card. Like if I asked a bunch of people like what they think would make the format healthy, they would tell me single prize decks that can keep up with all the big power creep EXs and V stars and V maxes, whatever, all the big cards right now. A single prize card that's just as powerful, just as fast, will help bring that down. And you just start from there and he keeps going down. And I think Ancient Box is like the perfect list to show them for a player like that. You know, it's
Yeah.
yes, it's Roaring Moon, but it's not Roaring Moon EX. It's Roaring Moon with a really fun attack. You discard your whole deck, which is always kind of fun to do, and swing for an insane amount of damage, which is always fun to do. So you know, I love this deck. I think it's great.
Yeah, you're essentially knocking out your opponent's Pokemon without knocking out your opponent's Pokemon, if you get what I'm saying. You're telling them, go to the discard, but you're not doing it for nothing. You're actually working for this attack.
Yes. And I think it also uses one of the most fun ace spec. Actually, I think it's the most fun ace spec to use. I think Secret Box is actually one of... It has to be, in my opinion, my favorite ace spec. I think overall, after playing so many different ace specs, it's just so satisfying putting together plays with Secret Box. And in terms of it being an ancient box, I'm just going to run through some numbers real quick. So if you don't know what Vengeance Fletching does, you do 70 base damage. So let's say you just start with, it's turn 1. You start with Roaring Moon, right? And you have Secret Box in hand. Let's say you get rid of 3. I'm going to go for the most optimal play, right? You get rid of 3 ancient cards with Secret Box. So that's already 30 more damage. You're already doing 100. You take Professor Sada, Earthen Vessel, you take Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, and Pokestop. You vessel away the Ancient Booster Capsule, you're at 40 more. You get 2 energy, you discard them with Radiant Greninja, whatever else, you know, you use Sada, set up your Roaring Moon, all said and done, you get another Ancient card and discard. And then you Pokestop, get more and discard, dude, you're swinging like 150. Turn 1, without playing anything else besides Secret Box. Like, that's insane.
I mean... You said it better than I could have.
I love it. It's only because I've spent so much time playing it. I literally love this deck. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and with Secret Box, you can just get rid of 3 ancient Pokemon. Now you're swinging for 100 off rip. And you're setting yourself up for another great play. And that's... Everything about this deck just, like, screams fun. If you're one of those people that enjoys just throwing cards away and just saying, get rid of it, then you can play Roaring Ancient Box.
It's funny because you know I hate playing decks like that. I'm such a conservative player. I play very... A lot of times I feel like I play slower than most other players. Yep. I play more passively. I make much safer plays than full-set plays. But this deck turns something in me into a beast. I don't know what it is.
That beast needs to come out more, man. Yes. I mean, like, listen, back in the day, it was 4 Sycamore every deck, at least. And I'm using 1 almost every turn. I'm throwing my whole hand away and grabbing a new one.
Which is what Guidance is, essentially.
You know, like, shuffling my hand into my deck, it's all right. But I want to take 7, though. Like, I want to take 7. That's a good number. I like 7.
Uh-huh. So, Ancient Box, best rogue deck, I think. I think it's my top pick for rogue decks. I don't necessarily know if it's the best one. I just think it's in a great spot right now. But enough about Ancient Box. Let's get into the number 2 deck. We got Goldengo, which has made a surprising comeback in terms of play rate on Limitless. I mean, more and more people are playing Goldengo, but not with Palkia and Radiant Greninja as an attacker. They're pairing it with Reverum for draw because you get around Iron Thorns and you still have the torch capabilities that Goldengo has always had. But with Hyper Aroma and Letter of Encouragement, you know, and Vessel, which has always been there, and Superior Energy Retrieval, you're always able to get so many energies at any point. I mean, I think Goldengo is kind of just... It's for people who want to play Raging Bull without playing meta decks. They just play Goldengo, and for good reason. You know, it's solid.
Yeah, but the one thing about Goldengo that really hurts it is the awkwardness of its attack damage.
Yes.
There's nothing big or played in the format that's divisible by 50, and half the time you're attacking, you end up having to waste an energy, essentially, just to hit that number. I mean, we're looking at Pheasantipity, 210. Yeah. Like, you're getting rid of an extra energy just to hit that 10 damage instead of the 50.
Oh, there's a bunch of Pheasantipity, Ogerpon, you know, and then you got stuff with 220, which is Miraidon. I mean, Chiampel you hit for weakness. But, you know, any basic EX or V, you're essentially kind of wasting an energy, whereas, like, Raging Bolt doesn't.
Yeah, and that's, like, one of the things that really hurts this deck. I mean, like, something like Chiampel 60, you can get around that. Like, there's a lot of things that, like, you can hit for with 60 times and not feel like you're getting rid of a lot. Because you can just recycle that energy back just as much as Goldengo can, but it just feels a lot better when you're hitting that exact number rather than having to say, well, they have 10 extra damage, I need this extra energy card, I need an Earthen Vessel this turn, I need to find a Night Stretcher, or else I just lose or I might lose my Golden Go. And it's fun. It's fun. I love attacks like that that are like completely dependent on like energy discard and stuff like that.
I think the deck's so much fun. I think it's in a great spot.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's on the top rogue decks. I haven't showcased it on the channel. And maybe I should revisit it. I think it's because I did it like right before Shattered Fable came out, but I think honestly I should have waited and done it right after, because I didn't see the potential it had going into the Shattered Fable format, and I wouldn't be shocked if like a couple people try Goldengo at Worlds. I don't think it'll do amazing. I think there's other decks that do it. Like we said, there's just other decks that math better than Goldengo and are basics. They're not stage ones that can get torched by like going second, you know, if they go second or something. But I think Goldengo is still a force to be reckoned with, and it always will be.
Oh, 100%. I just feel like if you're going to go to Worlds, you might pick something other than Goldengo. If it's the only deck you have in your cabinet, I mean, good luck, have fun.
To Worlds, you are a good enough player that you know it's not worth playing Goldengo. To Worlds, you'll just play Raging Bolt. But if you're looking for just a good deck that's done well over the past 2 weeks, that's fun to bring to your locals and, you know, turn a couple heads, get a few laughs, Goldengo. This right here.
Bring it to your locals, have a good time, have your opponent rage quit the game.
Like, this will win a local tournament, and that makes sense, but it most likely won't win Worlds.
If it wins Worlds, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I'll change my YouTube banner to Goldengo if it wins Worlds for a month.
I will force myself to play Raging Bolt if it wins Worlds. I will play Raging Bolt until I hit Arceus tier. I will do that.
I'll play some Baltimore if it does.
Oh no, that's like the Dante's Inferno. That's like the 7th layer, bro.
It's
don't do that to yourself.
You made the 8th layer just for me if I do that. Enough about Goldengo. I'm gonna like sell my soul.
Yeah, let's move on to arguably one of the best rogue decks.
I think this actually might be the best rogue deck. I think if I had to pick something else for Worlds that wasn't Ancient Box, I would go Miraidon right now, but I usually don't like gambling enough for Miraidon. And this deck kind of looks like a pile in this image, I realize, but it's the same Miraidon we've always seen. I mean, I know the Discord thing is kind of in the way here, but it's 15 energy, 2 double turbo energy is why it's such a gambling deck. You know, just because it's got so many, you need so many energy for your generators and stuff like that, but it hits hard, it hits fast, it can deal with Regidrago before it evolves, it can deal with Raging Bolt, it can keep pace with that with Vitality Band and Zapdos. I mean, it's got everything it needs, except for a good Charizard matchup, but Charizard isn't popular right now. So it's like the same exact thing.
You're just chilling, like almost every matchup. It's like a 50-50. You're gonna have a good time. And if your opponent's playing Miraidon, you're gonna want to go first. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. You definitely. I mean, Miraidon thrives in going second. You know, and taking 2 prizes on that first turn. It does it if you have a low HP basic in play. You take a KO with Iron Hands, and if you have a big basic V or EX in play, you know, you're taking a KO with Miraidon. So it's one of those decks where it gets going fast, it gets going hard, and it's really just can you keep pace. And that's part of the reason why I love Ancient Box, because even in decks like this, you know, it can't deal with Ancient Box too well because amp you very much. You need Vitality Band and Zapdos on your bench to take 2 prizes on Roaring Moon, which is a lot. You know, that's a lot to ask for. So solid deck.
Very, very solid.
And getting into the top 10 cards, it's the exact same that we've had. And maybe I should have put Spiritomb here. I think that's on me. I should have put Spiritomb on this list. The only difference from the last 2 weeks is Unfair Stamp. I think Unfair Stamp is in a phenomenal spot. I know he said like hand disruption cards are going down and they're not as good because of Pheasantipity, but that's because that's your supporter for turn. If you could use a hand disruption card and take a boss KO on Pheasantipity, Unfair Stamp, because a lot of decks are using Pheasantipity as a big crutch right now. So if you could take that card out of play and still put your opponent at 2 cards, love an Unfair Stamp for that.
Your opponent's crying and you're winning.
Yes, yeah.
Like you said, it's a crutch card, and it's one of those things that sits on the bench. It rarely attacks unless you're playing against like a loyal 3 deck,
or it's like the most perfect scenario.
Yeah, like it's just gonna sit there. It's gonna collect dust, and it's gonna be one of those things that's like, you know, I have a really nice boss's orders, nice and shiny. It's got the gold around it. Let me see it real quick. Let me show it to your Pheasantipity. And by the way, Unfair Stamp, draw 2 cards. Have fun with that. You know what I mean? And your opponent's gonna cry because they're probably gonna draw 2 energy if they're playing Miraidon, and they're gonna have to sit there and they have to deal with it. I mean, it's just one of those things that's like, make your opponent cope Seethe, Mold, and maybe they might even Scoop after an Unfair Stamp knockout on Pheasantipity. If their deck is that focused, there's a lot of decks that rely on this card right now. They took out a lot of good draw support to throw in Pheasantipity, a couple of them. And they're gonna have to sit there
and there's also a lot less like B-Brown stuff in decks, which I think we've mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's like Unfair Stamp. It's I feel like it's the time for Unfair Stamp. So solid tech card. I mean, we've talked about the others in all the other episodes. I don't think there's really much to reiterate with them. They're all just like annoying cards to work around, like Mimikyu, Ogerpon with their abilities, and all the stadiums just make certain opponents pretty much scream and not want to play the game much. So side secret box, most funny spec. That's pretty much it for the tech cards. Very, very similar list. I think this changes the least across sets. I think the only time tech cards change a lot is when there's a massive new set that's dropped. And I think going into Stellar Crown, the tech cards will change a lot to deal with Terrapagos, and there's so many new cards that are going to shake up the format. But for now, tech cards stay relatively stable, with the exception of Spiritomb, which should be on this list. So, moving forward to the halfway point, it is my for Who's That Pokemon, and I am so confident in this one. I think I chose an elite card. If you don't know this card instantly, I think this is going to be awesome. That being said, do you have the presentation pulled up? Because I know the last time I did this, you weren't even looking at the picture, so I couldn't even throw you off.
All right, I'm here. I'm going to move the box on the left.
The box on the left has been moved for me as well. So this is the snippet. Oh, before you ask your questions, if you haven't tuned into any other episodes, what this is, it's a little game between the first half of the podcast and the second half of the podcast called Who's That Pokemon, everyone's favorite game from the anime when we were kids. And essentially, depending on who picks the card, like I picked the card, I took a small snippet of the card. The box on the right is the actual card. And we have, what did we say, 7 guesses that have to be card related to guess the Pokemon card that we got the snippet of. And right now we both have guessed each other's card. I picked Gardevoir EX the first time, and I chose the little section on the forehead that looked like a leaf, but Avery wasn't looking at the card, so you just guessed it with questions. And then last week I knew it was Mimikyu before I asked a question, and I just asked one question to clean it up and make sure it was right. But yeah, dialed in not last week, 2 weeks ago on that Mimikyu.
So first things first.
Yes.
This is definitely an illustration. This is like a trainer gallery art, because I see more than one Pokemon, unless I'm looking at it wrong. That looks like a numeral in the background or something. So what I will ask you is, does this Pokemon have an ability?
Yeah.
What typing is this Pokemon?
It's a normal type.
Normal type, ability... Is it a support Pokemon?
No.
Is it an attacking Pokemon?
Yeah.
I'm thinking because
take your time, man. Take your time. This one, I tried so hard. There was other parts of this card I could use that I thought would have been insane, but I thought this would probably be the funniest portion of the card I could use for no reason.
Because it's like round, and I know that we don't have many round Pokemon.
You know what's funny? I was actually gonna pick the speaking of round Pokemon, I was gonna pick the Rowlet from Shattered Fable and try to get you with your own Pokemon, but I couldn't find a piece of Rowlet that didn't scream Rowlet. Because
Dartrix looks pretty similar. Dartrix and Rowlet, you could throw that off.
Yeah. Well, I guess I revealed it's not Dartrix or Rowlet. So if that was one of your guesses watching, you're wrong. It's not that. You've used 4 guesses as well, or questions as well. Is this
what stage is this Pokemon?
It's a basic. I think this is the hardest any of us have had with guessing the cards so far.
All right, so it's a basic attacking normal ability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing it's a trainer gallery.
That was your first question.
Okay, yeah.
2 questions left. Come on. This has to be the one.
Is it within any of the decks that we've talked about?
Oh, like today?
Yes.
It's not.
Damn.
One question left. This is good. I love this. I think this is the hardest one we've had. And the first trainer gallery. Yeah. Because you did the regular MQ. And then I did the regular Carnivore EX. Yeah.
My brain hurts.
Got one question to lock in on your guess. Or did we do 3 guesses? I don't think we've actually used more than 1 guess a single time, so we don't really know. We can do 3 guesses. Do you have a final question to help you narrow down what you are staring at?
Does this Pokemon have an attack?
I don't think so. No, I don't believe so.
I wanna say...
I can double check. But no, go with the answers no.
Okay. Basic,
No.
normal, doesn't have an attack, has an ability, attacking Pokemon.
Yes. That's insane.
I don't like the problem is there's not many of those that like I can think of, right?
No, there's not.
So
3 guesses, all questions used for the first time in this series.
am I looking at?
You better not be looking at cards.
Nah.
Better not be cheating out there. Gotta get it off the brain. Who do you
Like I legitimately, I'm at a loss. Like I'm
Are you
I'm
gonna hit
stumped.
the concede button? You gonna hit that concede on me?
I don't want to, but I might have to.
At least throw out 3 random Pokemon if you're gonna do that. You know.
You know what? That's very fair. That's
Yeah,
very fair.
At least use the guesses. Just say 3 cards. 3 normal type cards. Because you know that much.
Am I looking at? Is it like some Snorlax card or something?
It's not Snorlax.
Maybe like a slacking.
It's not
I don't-
slacking. Last guess. Come on. Man, dude, I thought you would have had this one locked. You got 1 guess. Can you clutch up? Who is the last normal type Pokemon that crosses your brain? You got this. I believe in you. Man, dude, I really didn't think this one would get you like that.
I mean, like, I.
Throw something out there. You got it. It's alright. No shame.
Is it like an Eevee?
It's not an Eevee. Are you ready to see what it is?
I don't think I am.
It's the Trainer Gallery Ditto.
God
on the
damn
duel.
it! Now I gotta sit here and look at that stupid face staring at me like, oh, you got it wrong.
Tell me that wasn't the best card. The second you said it was a Numel, like 2 seconds after I showed it, I'm like, oh my god. I'm cooked. You had it. Nope. It was Numel. That was Numel's butt you were staring at. And part of the rules we forgot to mention, a part of the Pokemon has to be shown in the segment we used. So I figured what better way to get around that than to show Numel that's actually Ditto.
I got dittoed IRL, and I'm honestly not even. I'm mad about it.
But he got by the trainer gallery Ditto. I thought when you found out it had an ability and not an attack, I'm like, oh, I'm cooked. That's it. There's only one, but nope. And an attacking Pokemon? Nah, bro.
I got absolutely cooked.
Cooked by trainer gallery Ditto is a wild statement.
No, it's fine. I'll recover from this in 2 weeks.
I'm terrified. You've seen this card before, though. I know that.
Oh yeah, I've honestly thought about taking it in, which is the craziest part. Like I thought about running the Ditto, and I'm staring at it, and I'm like, "What is that?"
Well, now you know, and you will never forget.
That thing is gonna be staring at me in my sleep.
What I was originally thinking was using part of Ditto's foot with the flowers next to it above the ability.
Yeah, that would have been evil. That would have just been evil.
But I thought it would have been way funnier if you saw Numel's butt behind the Numel butt that's part of the Ditto to guess it. And somehow that worked. I thought you might have thought it was like Dragonite or something based on the Pokemon in the back. Because I'm like, okay, that Numel butt looks like a Dragonite belly. Looks like, some like orange Pokemon standing there. But no, you were on the money with Numel. Yeah, solid guess, solid go. So I have officially taken the lead. I am 1-0 in the series on stumping each other. So
it was going to be a tie game next week. I won't let this slide. I will not let this slide.
No, you're going to be pressed when I I got it. All right, that was a ton of fun. Let's jump in after that. Let's pull the reins back into a new potential series on the channel that Avery and I have been thinking of in the background, mostly Avery because this is Avery's realm. So with that, I will jump into the first slide of it and let you take this one away.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is the idea of Throwback Thursday. Are you tired of power creep? Because I know I am too. Are you tired of Pokemon nerfing trainers to the ground and buffing Pokemon up to the point to where it's almost unreturnable? So am I. Welcome to my club where we talk about it's more so like just a nostalgia trip personally, and I know my man right here hasn't really played in these eras. No, he hasn't experienced the fun.
I collected when I was a kid, but I would like toss the trainers. Like I didn't care.
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine, don't worry about it. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing with competitive decks from this era because there are so many. I mean, I sent a playlist. There's at least 100 decks in there that fit within Black and White base all the way up to Sun and Moon Team Up. And the reason we use Team Up as a limit is because that's when Pokemon decided that 230, 250 was like too little, and they bumped up to like 270, and then they got into like the 300.
Tag teams came out too. It's anything before Team Up, so we're not using any. Essentially, if there's a tag team Pokemon, we're not using it.
Yeah, 100%.
And are you on the second slide? Should I skip to the rules, or are you still on the?
I'm still on the first slide.
Okay.
By the pack selection on the bottom, can you tell what my favorite generation is? I mean, I think it's out there. And one of the Pokemon on these pack arts is one of the decks I feel like I'm gonna be running. And there's a lot of them there. So I think we can get into like the fun little rules that we've made.
All right. So here we go for the rules. I think I can take this little section just to make sure I actually understand the rules, and I get my first deck right. So the general rules is the Legacy Supporter rule. So that means you can play supporters on the first turn, which when I was testing for the deck I made, and oh my god, I was so excited for it. It's absolutely deep. You thought that Ditto was devious? You were going to be pissed when my deck cooks. But you can use supporters on the first turn. So when I found that out, it made my deck way more consistent. Also, the thing about the series, sorry, tangent, that I'm so excited for is I think I'm playing the most unique, fun, like goofy, stupid card ever printed, and I guarantee it was probably so common and so well played and used and tried, but I literally have no idea because I don't know expanded like that. So this is like the coolest card to me that I've never seen, but I am really scared that I'm gonna like flip it over on my first turn and Avery's gonna be like, oh yeah, that's dude, really. Like, what are you doing?
Did you even look?
Yeah. Well, you were there when I spent 2 hours and I found one deck and you made like 12.
I literally am I opened up TCG Live and I'm staring at my decks. I have 4, 8, 9. I have 11 decks for this series.
I've won. Yes. So that's the legacy supporter rule. Also the wild card rule, which gives me, I think, equal playing field. We are allowed to use 4 wild cards in our decks, and what a wild card is any card after where we put, like, you know, the team up, like, kind of ban on cards. So we're not really using Pokemon because, like, all right, I know people in the comments are gonna be like, oh, you should use this Pokemon as your wild card. No, don't want to. It's Avery and I playing, and we're trying to have fun. So it's really just to use fun supporters. You know, if I want to use like Avery in a deck, or Marnie, or, I mean, yeah, I guess if you want to use Marnie, just use N. But you get the point. You know, use a fun. Maybe I want to use, I don't know, what's a random card?
Buddy Poffin.
Buddy Poffin. You know, I could use those, and I can have up to 4 cards. That being said, if I play an ace spec, like Legacy Energy, like Prime Catcher, like Secret Box, that will take all 4 wild card spots. So, you know, you get a super powerful thing such as Secret Box, but now I have to use cards only from these, I think it's like Lost Thunder, I think is the final set before Team Up.
Yeah.
So, you know, it'll take all 4 spots, which is very fair, actually. Like, when I was testing decks, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. I apologize. Like, when I was testing my first and only deck that I made, I was bouncing between using an A-spec and using 4 supporters, and it, honestly, like, both of them flowed amazing. I actually opted not. I don't think I'm using an A-spec in my final list, but I don't know, I liked having a couple more extra supporters in there, but it definitely was equal. Special condition buffs. Did we actually... So we didn't, I don't think, finalize, like, set in stone exactly what we want the special condition buffs to be, but something that's upset the both of us that we've actually spent a lot of time talking about in our free time is how Pokemon has had this insane power creep on Pokemon. You know, like you said, it's nerfed the hell out of trainers, but Pokemon get buffed left and right every single second. The one thing that's never changed in the Pokemon card game is status conditions. They have stayed the same since this game first came out, which really speaks to how they're not that useful, because no one's cared to buff or nerf them, so they just kind of are trash. They're doing the same amount of damage on Burn and Confusion that it did when Pokemon had 100 HP, and that was the tankiest Pokemon ever printed. So we are going to be buffing special conditions, and we will go over those once we go live on the first time we play the series. And then roll coin flips. This one, actually, I low-key kind of forget, now that I think about it. Wasn't it like we're allowed to do it once per turn?
Yeah, like once per turn. If it's like flip 3 coins, 100 for each heads, you flip 3 tails. You can just opt to reflip it. I'm gonna let you do so, and if you flip 3 heads, I'm gonna get absolutely cooked.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be fun because, like, I want the card to be shown in its best condition.
Yes, yeah. So it just gives the gambling decks. Are we doing once per game or once per turn? I think that's what I forgot.
You can do it once per turn, but if you think it's a lot more balanced to do it once per game, then, like, we can talk about that.
I think that's going to be a play-by-ear thing. You know, like, if I bring some coin flip deck and it's a once per turn and that gets cracked and we're doing a best 2 out of 3, we'll just do it once per game and call it a day. You know what I mean? Like, the equivalent of Luxury Mill, but in, like, expanded. Like, let's say Luxury Mill was somehow legal for this, and I played that. I feel like once per turn could be stupid in that deck.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just something we'll figure out. And again, this series is just for us to have a bit of fun. There's going to be some in the match rule changes and whatnot, but just to keep things balanced, keep things fun. We want this to be exciting. We don't necessarily want these games to be blowouts. We just want to have some fun playing. Like, Avery loves expanded cards, and I love learning about them. I've actually never played with them really in my life, so this gives me an opportunity to have fun with it. So that's what the series is for, and that's what this reroll coin flips is for. It's just meant to like balance out some of the gambling type decks and have some fun and some good laughs with it.
100%. Could not have said it better myself. And also, like, some of the things is, some of these cards that we play with were out before some of these players were even born yet. Like, let that sink in just a little bit. There are kids at your locals who weren't even alive when VS Secret was being played.
So Avery's told me a few of the cards he might be using, which is fair. You know, it's whatever. I don't even know what 90% of them do, but he does not know the one deck I've made. So I'm double checking. Oh my god! Oh wait, no, that's not the right. Never mind, that's the wrong one. What? Wait a second. I've got to do some more looking. I didn't know those existed. Oh. No. Wow. I wish I could show everyone what I'm looking at, but it would totally give away all of what I'm playing. So I'm trying to scroll through on TCG Player to find the year that my card came out, but I can't find the right one. Man. But I'm gonna be really upset if like the kids at like my locals and stuff like that are younger than this card. I'm gonna be pissed.
It makes me feel old.
Are yours older than half?
Oh yeah, I'm staring at my Gyarados that was made in 2015. So there's a good chance that like some of the kids at third are younger.
2015, dude. Mine might be even older than that. Maybe. Oh my god. This is a mess. Yeah, I can't find it. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm sick of scrolling and trying to find the right version of it. So just, I'm gonna check that later though. I'm gonna be really upset if it's like a 2010 card, and I know for a fact it's older than like the kids I vibe with at my locals, and I think are kind of funny, like going to middle school and whatnot. So I went to the third slide just so if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we're probably going to be using cards that you guys aren't very familiar with, and stopping to explain them on the first time we use it is going to get a little... It's going to get a little yappy. So, here's a little bit of the cards you might want to look out for when we play them. Trainer's Mail. It allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, take a trainer card. It could be a trainer card except for Trainer's Mail. Put it into your hand and shuffle the rest back into your deck. Very good for getting out what you need. If you don't have a supporter in your hand, you can use that to grab a supporter. You can grab a VS Seeker, which we're going to talk about, to grab a supporter from your discard pile and use
Useless card. Not in my
Useless.
deck.
Absolutely.
The VS Seeker is trash. It's not a single copy's in my deck for Expanded.
You look
That's
at
how you know
VS
I don't know how to play Expanded.
It essentially allows you to play 8 copies of any supporter that you want. I mean, if you want a VS Seeker for an end late game, you need the VS Seeker for like a boss's orders, because a lot of times in this format, you get rid of your boss's orders, you have to Ultra Ball it early. You're gonna be staring at a Luminion on the bench. You're gonna be sitting there mouth watering, like I can't really do anything about that. But with VS Seeker, if you get rid of something that you need, and it also removes the fear of getting rid of supporter cards. If you have to Sycamore or research away your entire hand and you have like 2 god tier supporters in there, you can just draw into a VS Seeker and grab that back next turn. It's no big deal. You have so many more options with this card. There's also Hex Maniac, which when you play it until the end of your opponent's next turn, not yours, all abilities are shut off. So if they want to play something like a Shaman EX to draw a couple cards, they're not going to be able to. Your opponent is going to be sitting there with no abilities until the end of their turn, and if they want to play it back, then you're just going to have to cope and see. The next card we're going to be talking about is Battle Compressor.
I did not know that card existed. Wait, that blows. That ruins my whole deck. Oh my god. Oh.
I was already planning. After this, I can send you every list I've made, and if you want to format one to whatever you want, you can go right ahead. I know you got one cooking. But if Hex Maniac is one of the decks I have can, but if your deck relies on abilities, I will take it out.
Just for the first deck I play.
Yeah, sure.
Like we'll probably play a couple different decks when we do a Throwback Thursday. Like it might be a bit of a longer episode, but just for the first, if I get Hex Maniac, dude, I can't play the game. Period.
All right, I won't use it.
For the
I'll
second
keep
game,
it.
go right ahead. I'll deal with it. But for the first game, because I'm
Okay.
so excited for this, if you play X-Maniac, dude, like, I have to scoop. Like, I
Oh,
can't.
I don't want to do that to you. That'd be so sad.
I just instantly lose. In the funniest way, I mean, you'll totally get it when you see it. But in the funniest way, like, the second you see one card in my deck, you'll understand that, hey, actually, the second you see, like, 5 cards, all of the Pokemon in my deck, you'll understand. You'll be like, wow, yeah, no, you can't do anything.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
Next card you're going to want to look out for is N, which is essentially Iono, except you shuffle the cards into your deck rather than putting them at the bottom. So if you like grab a card that you really need and your opponent's like, nah, get rid of it, you still have a chance to draw into it. It's a very little chance, but you can still get that card.
It could be a very little chance unless you have 10 cards up in your deck.
True.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna sit there and your opponent, like, if you get Iono'd and you grab something like Greninja EX nowadays, that's just like, all right, I just wasted the one card I grabbed. It's just sitting at the bottom now. But like with this, nah, you're still good. You're gonna have to find it though.
Yeah.
Next card, Shaman EX, one of the best cards in the game at the time. The moment you place that onto your bench, you draw cards instead of 6 in your hand. It wasn't limited to once per turn. You could grab a couple of Shaman EXs, throw them down, keep drawing. And it was honestly fine because like it is very small. It is very small. 110 HP. That thing is getting absolutely fried by anything. Like everything. If your opponent plays something like a Parallel City and makes you discard bench Pokemon until you have 3, you're gonna get rid of your Shamans because those are easy boss KO targets. You don't even have to work for that. They're just so free. But it's such a good card that like you can't not use it. You have to use it. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that a lot of people were upset at back in the day, is that like you need a Shaman, but like there were very few decks that, you know, didn't use it. Sorry. It's like running like no Bibarel in our like previous games. It's like, all right, well, you know, you're gonna need it to draw cards. Sorry, you know, if you get into a bad spot, you're gonna want it. Next one, Hoopa EX. Hoopa EX has a very fun ability. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can search your deck for 3 Pokemon EX and put them into your hand. So, if you have something in your active that you'd like to Mega Evolve, you can grab a Mega, and then the basic version of that in a Shaman. Typically, that's what I'll do. Or, if you already have the Shaman in hand, grab 2 basics, a Mega, and then you're chilling. You can set yourself up very, very well with Hoopa EX. But the thing is, it's just
actually really useful, I'm not gonna lie.
Just sits on the bench for the rest of the game. Unless you play AZ, which is essentially just Penny. You pick it up.
I have a question. And this might be a rules thing for how we're doing this. If I play a new EX in my deck as one of my wild cards, like a support EX, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are we going to let Hoopa EX search that one?
Yeah. It's a support. It's not an attacker. We can.
That's what I mean. Like, if I'm playing a support EX and I use Hoopa EX and search for the Scarlet Violet lowercase EX, are we like...
Go right ahead.
Okay.
I'm not too worried about it.
If you want to think about that then, because that Hoopa could make things just so much more consistent.
Yeah, Hoopa goes crazy.
Yeah.
We have double colorless energy, not double turbo, not the nerfed version. DCE is just 2 colorless. You're not gonna sit there and you know your Tandem Mouse, your Mouse Hold EX isn't gonna swing for 100. You're gonna get that full 120, that full 120 with that nom incisors.
Dude, I wish I could play Mouse Hold. Yeah.
DCE is just one of those cards that's like, I understand why it had to go. It was just too good.
With the power creep of Pokemon, with Pokemon being as good as they are now, DCE had to leave, but oh my god, do I
that would have to be like an ace spec energy for it to even be like considered reprinted.
Yeah. And it literally couldn't because Neo Upper exists. Like, even Neo Upper is limited to, it has to be a stage 2 because that's how insane DCE would be in this format. If Neo Upper was just 2 rainbow for any Pokemon, it would be disgusting. Or 2 colorless for anything, it would still be disgusting. Oh yeah, no. There's a reason.
Another busted card. We have Skyla. Search your deck for any trainer card. Just throw it in your hand. So if you're hurting for a trainer, you can go ahead and grab whatever you want. Exactly. You can grab that piece of the puzzle that you need, and it counts as your supporter for the turn. Yes, grabbing any trainer card does hurt, but you can also just grab another supporter for the next turn. You're not really, or you could grab a VS Seeker, and then next turn grab whatever you need from the discard pile. There's so many different options. It sounds underwhelming, but in reality, this was a one of in a lot of decks. Like, you really wanted to have this in there, at least just to grab something.
In so many scenarios, it's a good
Yeah.
one-of supporter. Like, I haven't played Expanded, but I could totally see why it's such a perfect one-of supporter, because it's like, okay, you have like 59 cards. You're like, I could put another switch, I could put another this, I could put another that. If you play Skyla, it's one of whatever you needed in that random scenario that card might have been useful, which is just so nice. It's so nice. There's no cards like that in the standard format, but if it existed, like if Skyla was in the same format, I would put that as a one of in like 80% of my decks easily.
Especially for something like Toad Scroll, you can grab an energy switch.
Yes. Or like a bug catching
Earthen
set.
Vessel,
I feel like I need so many
bug
times.
catching
Earthen
set.
Vessel. Oh my god, if I had energy retrieval when I actually wanted it, oh my god, dude, like that would be insane.
We also have Bridget, which is you can either search your deck for 1 Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon and throw them on your bench. Not bad at all. This was awesome. Some cards I didn't have room for in here. One of the best ones, Max Elixir. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck and a basic energy. Just one. But if you find a basic energy there, attach it to one of your bench Pokemon.
Overrated.
Absolutely crazy.
Overrated.
Absolutely crazy.
Not in my deck. Cards trash.
We have Mega Turbo. Put a
Am I supposed
basic
to
energy
go to
from
the
your
next
discard pile. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But this is probably one of the decks that I'm thinking about playing, and it's Mega Gardevoir. Now, not the Gardevoir you see now, where a bunch of people that need deodorant. All right, I'm bringing at least 3 cans to Baltimore, and they're gonna be the spray ones, so I can wave it out. I can air the place out in the spray on deodorant.
That's wild.
But Mega Gardevoir, if you don't know what it does 30 damage for the amount of fairy energy attached to all your Pokemon, and that's one thing. Fairy needs to come back. Regidrago would be crying if this card was reprinted.
God. Either Fairy needs to come back, or Dragon need a weakness to other dragons.
Oh yeah, when Dragon Pokemon were originally printed, they were weak to themselves.
Which is fine. I think that would be actually a healthy change to the format that the Pokemon company should think about doing. It's making dragons with dragons. Or Fairy, or just bring back Fairy. I think that's better. I think bringing back Fairy is actually better for the game. But if they want to keep the 8 types and just make Dragon weak again, I'll take it.
And like the sort of main engine for this deck is you play Fairy Garden as their stadium, which means that any Pokemon with Fairy Energy attached don't have a retreat cost. You can sit there and you can your main attacker is going to be Xerneas, and you're not going to be using that second attack, Rainbow Spear. You're going to be using Geomancy. Search your deck for up to 2 Fairy Energy and attach them, or choose 2 of your bench Pokemon for each of those, grab a Fairy Energy and attach it. You're going to be one of doing that. You're going to be one of swinging with Max Elixirs. You're going to want to Hoopa EX for your Gardevoirs, your Mega Gardevoirs, and your Shamans. And one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that to Mega Evolve, if you don't have a special tool, which is a Spirit Link, you lose your turn. So it's one of those things that's like, if you want to just straight up Mega Evolve at the end of your turn, you can go ahead and do that, and you have room for another tool, like a Muscle Band, which lets you do 20 damage, Hard Charm, which lets you take 20 less damage. You have room and you have options, but ending your turn is kind of annoying. And it's one of those things that's like, I understand why they don't do it now, like for V and V-Stars, because and especially such a fast-paced format that we have now,
It would make
this just would not slide.
No, it wouldn't.
You would not be running V-Stars with
But
the
it's one of
Spirit
those
Link.
rules
You
that
would not.
Kept the pace of play in check at this time. Like, I think now that they don't do that anymore, it's way too late to ever consider it. But I think if they kept doing that with V-Stars, V-Maxes, and I mean, you can't really do it with EXs because there's basic EXs and stage 2s, but you know what I mean? Like, it definitely could.
Yeah.
It helps with the pace of play for the game, for sure. And it'll be a big factor in this match, like these matchups, for sure. Like, I play any Mega EXs in my first deck just because I'm too new to Expanded and I'm 100% gonna fuck it up and I'm just gonna end my turn when I don't want to and I can't handle that, so I'm just not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's completely
But
reasonable.
I need to see it happen to process what's going on, and I'm not dealing with these BS rules with Megas and all that. That's a later issue.
Yeah, we can deal with that in like episode 3 when we
Not this
pull up the
episode 3.
yeah, not this one, the next one.
Not this one, yeah.
But for this deck, I chose not to run like 4 wild cards. I chose to run the 1 A spec, and I picked computer search because that can definitely help out a lot.
Right, that's the old school A spec. I was looking at that too,
Yep.
actually. That was one of the ones I was thinking about using.
So for those who don't know, discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for any card and put it into your hand. It is Greninja EX's attack effectively, except that your turn isn't ending. You can use that card whenever you feel like it.
At least for the deck I was cooking up, I played that, and then I switched to Secret Box, and I thought Secret Box was just a better version of that.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, you discard an extra card, but I at least in the deck I was playing, I always was searching for trainer cards and never like Pokemon or something I couldn't search with, like, or energy, you know what I mean? So, because like you could search for those with computer search, you can't do that with Secret Box. But like, I feel like Secret Box is another fun alternative to that type of effect as well. This is what's crazy about Expanded. There's so many cards. It's like, man, they do such similar things, but which is like the perfect little thing for my deck. I have no idea. I don't even know what I'm playing. I do. I just don't know if it's common. I hope it's not. I hope I get something new and fun and quirky.
We'll find out. We'll find out when that day comes. Do you have like a day that you want to set aside, like sometime?
Soon. Yeah, I wanted to do it after Baltimore because at this point we have less than a month. It's going to be so much testing and prep because I think like a lot of us have legitimate hope to try to push day 2. Like out of our group, I want one of us to go to day 2. And I think to better those odds, we have to spend a lot of time testing. So ideally, first week after Baltimore, whether we're riding the high, riding the low, you know what I mean? We just take our break from the meta after a big regional for the first regional for you, and my first big regional that I'm really going for a day 2 performance again. You know, like I think a nice little break and doing this type of format would be a ton of fun.
100% agreed.
Yeah. This is from the shit show format. Oh my god, why can't the format be like this? Why can't
this is gonna feel like this whole series is gonna feel like that 3 a.m. water that comes out of the fridge.
Yes.
Once you get used to everything, it's gonna be like, wow. I'm not building decks to one-shot Raging Bolt. I'm building decks to be fun.
If I could play my deck in the standard format, I would. In a heartbeat. It's that much fun.
I'm terrified.
Awesome. It's
I'm scared.
Epic. It's not even funny.
But I think that wraps up everything about Throwback Thursday that at least I wanted to talk about. If you have some closing statements, feel free.
Not really. I mean, I think you did an awesome job explaining the series, explaining what it is, the goals of it. Again, we're not looking to build the best expanded deck for you to take on the ladders. I mean, obviously we'll post the descriptions and like our we'll post the lists in our description down below. That's what I was trying to get out. Didn't work. But for the most part, this is just a series for us to have fun, for him to show off his knowledge of expanded cards that he dreams of coming back, and for me to have fun with those cards because I have a blast just seeing new cards and playing this game for what it is. But I have no experience, so it's like the clash of the new versus old styles of play, except I'm in his home turf. That's pretty much all it is.
The home field advantage is going to be crazy.
Yeah, because then I'm like, oh, this is the spiciest thing ever. And it's spicy to me because I've never seen any of this stuff. This might have been the most popular deck. I've never seen it in my life. But now I'm bringing something. I'm like, man, I'm really hoping Avery never saw this, but it might be the most common thing known to man. So, you know, we'll figure it out. We'll take it. We'll play it by ear. It's definitely going to be a ton of fun regardless. It would be so funny if it's like, I think this is the craziest thing and it's the most common thing. That would be hilarious.
Just flip over like the basic, and I'm just like, okay, so you're playing this, and this. Your strategy is this, and this.
Try like
I'm gonna be doing this.
If I flip over this first deck, and you know my deck list, I'm gonna be pissed because you watched me make it for what 2.5 hours I spent looking through cards to perfect this list as best I can. And if you know what I'm doing or how I'm gonna do it before I do it, I'm gonna be heartbroken.
To make it fair, like I said, I'm gonna send you the lists that I've made, and you can look through.
I think I'm a good enough player. I'll figure it out on the fly. You know, like that's just.
I respect that. I like it.
You don't know my list. I'm not gonna know your list. You know these expanded cards. I don't, and I will cope. I might lose the first 15 matches. I don't care. I'm just happy to do this series, like legitimately. You know what I mean? Like I expect to get blown out the first bunch of games until I see your decks function. Then I'm like, all right, that's a good flow for expanded decks. I gotta hop on that type of wave. So I'm really not upset if I lose, and I don't know what's going on. Like I'm building a deck that honestly, it really doesn't matter what the hell you play as long as it's not Hexmaniac, apparently, or Silent Lab, because I think that does the same thing but Trainer or Stadium Edition, and I can't handle that one either. Cause Silent Lab shuts down all abilities in play.
I think so. And I'm looking through my God of War list. Yeah, I don't run that. I don't run Hexmaniac, and that was the list I was actually planning to play.
You're definitely not playing Silent Lab or Hexmaniac, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like my deck that I made, it doesn't really matter so much what you are playing at all. It's really just how will I set up? Will I win or will I not? And I love it.
I'm honestly, I'm really excited to take a look. Like I'm already like.
I have another month to make it perfect. Be scared, because I will spend a lot of time.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. So, that being said, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode, unless you have any final comments for the Battle VIP podcast episode 3.
I think we've covered just about everything. Listen, the chances of somebody who's watching this and going to Worlds, you're probably already in a match, but on this little downtime that you have after day 1, yep, I hope that you guys are having a great time. You know, check out the store, cop yourself a ginj-tcg shirt, grab yourself whatever you want, bro. I want you guys to be dripped out. Represent us, because you know
the sticker on your deck box.
Exactly. That's all that's you know, that's awesome. It sits right there. You know, somebody might ask you a question like, "Hey, what's that?" Oh, it's just, you know, a silly guy who plays some rogue decks. You know what I mean? If you want to go check it out, go have some fun. Check out the channel. Meta Deck Mondays. You know, he's not the happiest playing the Meta Deck Mondays.
How is that, of all the series I've started on this channel, how is that the first one? You could have said Wild Wednesday.
I'm going to get into that. Wild Wednesday. Listen, if you want to see somebody cry, watch the Got the Tell one. If you want to watch an opponent,
dude,
get absolutely
flamed on Wild Wednesday in the comments. We're like, you should have played this card. Why didn't you play this card? Like, I don't know. I didn't test the deck. I made it in front of you and jumped into a match. Like, I don't know what I did wrong.
That Bramblegast went crazy, though.
Like, everyone's like, reverse energy. Like, I forgot. Jeez, I'm sorry. Like, damn.
We're humans, all right? We forget.
Oh my god, the Loyal 3 deck, I forgot boss's orders.
I didn't even notice that until I read the comments after watching. I'm like, oh yeah, there's no boss in here.
The whole third game, that's all I talked about. I'm like, the boss has to be my last 2 prize cards. Then I took one of the prize cards, and I had 1 left. And I'm like, I didn't put boss in the deck. I put Arvin in the deck. Because when I made the deck, I had 2 spots left. And I'm like, ooh, what would be good? And I'm like, 2 Arvin could be good. Get my Mochis, get some Nesballs. I like that. And it took me, like, I was looking for boss all of the second game, and then in the middle of the third game, it hit me. Those 2 spots I left for boss, I forgot to actually put it in.
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember.
I bummed that one, but I still went 2-1, which is I believe I went 2-1, which is very impressive for no boss.
Yeah, I mean, you just had to tell your opponent's active to go away. Yeah, you had no other options.
I said, whatever's in the active is dying, and I'm going to figure the rest out.
And figured it out. I mean,
yeah.
Did good.
Oh yeah. So with that being said, thank you, Slides Go, for giving me. I've left the thank you page up on the screen, so thank you so much for creating this presentation and letting us use it for free. If you need a slide template for your college presentations, high school presentations, middle school presentations, or just for fun, use Slides Go. It's got some awesome backgrounds like this one right here, and if you don't believe that I have used it, I will somehow get my professors from undergrad to give me a written email and tell y'all that not only did I use these presentations, but they actually include it in their syllabus for their future students to use as backgrounds because they had so much fun watching me present with these. I am the king of Slides Go at this point. So Slides Go, if you're watching this, give me a sponsor because I love your slides and I want to use the premium ones so bad. I'm just broke. With that being said, thank you for tuning in this long in the Battle VIPs podcast, episode 3. Hopefully in episode 4, we will get our final main host, JT Hydro Josh, the man, the myth, the bum who hasn't showed up for 3 episodes on with us. Thank you so much for watching. Stay epic. Peace.